Hello, welcome back to Voices of the Great War. I'm Liz Watson. Today we're going to be reading our last letter from Hooks that he wrote to Helen. And if you remember, Hooks, he actually just graduated from medical school, so he is a physician and he has started his internship at an army hospital, and it is based in France. And Helen, she is training to become a nurse, so she is very well acquainted with the medical profession as well. So Hooks, he wrote this last letter on October 10th in 1917, and this is that letter. And Hooks' letter to Helen reads, Helen dear, I received your letters August 31st and September 3rd some time ago, and I haven't answered them. I don't know whether I really want to answer those letters anyway. I don't know just how or what to write. I've been on the jump since 5:30 this morning, first carrying stretchers half the morning and then doing dressings, so I'm afraid it won't be much of a letter anyway. I won't take anything seriously if you'd prefer. It ought not be hard. We're used to making rather light of things here, because some things would be too much for us if we didn't. But somehow it isn't easy. You see, dear, it is so very serious to me. Helen, I'm afraid the little sense of humor I once had is gone. It's a pity, because you really need one to see the extreme fussiness of night convoy parties and leaky tents and bully beef and beans. I suppose winter has started, at least it's winter raining or hailing at regular intervals. The war tents are closed up, so I use a head mirror for dressings. It works pretty well when the electric lights are on. Which they are at times. Sam Withers came back yesterday from the infectious hospital, having had 3 negatives. He's sure glad to be back among the healthy. You're on surgical now, aren't you? Is it as bad as you thought it would be? And has Dr. Sachs improved any? I've had about enough of surgery for a while. Hope they switch us soon. I wonder who starts all these stories about our hospital being bombed and all that. I'm sorry, your sympathy is wasted. But I'll try to do better when they finish us up here and send us to the front. I don't know where that will be. We'll probably have to wait a while for our own commissions. But we sure don't want to stay around a base throughout the entire war. Our work is pretty good now, and there's lots of it, and we get rather fair experience. One thing that gets our goats is having the nurses call us by our last names. I have a mild prejudice against being addressed by my last name, and it makes my blood boil. It sort of reminds me of Jeeves, see that the car is ready at 3. And some of them can be so patronizing. I do have to add, our Barnes nurses are the worst of the bunch in that way. A mere medical student is too far beneath them for notice. I would not be sorry a minute, kid, if you decided to drop training. Enough wail for one night, don't you think? It must be the weather. I seem to be kind of a grouch tonight for no reason in particular. It's hardly fair to inflict it on you, though, is it? I don't know why I always seem to pick those times to write you. You'd better throw this letter into the basket and forget it. You know, it does make me horribly nervous to do dressings all day on some of these cases. Some of the wounds are indescribably frightful, and the men almost all stand the fearful suffering without batting an eye. Sometimes I'm shaking all over after finishing a dressing. You know, you're hurting the man, and you can't help it. There was a wonderful harvest moon last week, most romantic. Same moon, much less romantic at 4:30 in the morning when getting up to answer roll call. It makes an awful difference. Well, it's pretty nearly time to get ready for another hard day. There's really no excuse for a letter like this. The only reason I'm going to mail it is because I'm too tired to write another. So I'm sorry, it'll have to go on as it is. Please, dear, don't think too harshly if you get few letters. We're really getting very few chances to write now, and please let me know where I stand. Yours, Hooks. So from Hook's letter, we can see he's really under some stress, and that's obviously very understandable considering what they're dealing with in the base hospitals. He's not on the front, so he's not at a clearing station, which is the medical facilities that are close to the front. So he's at a base hospital. So these are the boys that, have come further back and are now they're getting treatment for their longer standing treatment for their wounds. But very difficult nonetheless, and as you can see where he wrote, he's shaking as he's doing these dressings because he knows that he's causing these boys considerable pain, and there's nothing he can do. He has to change the dressing, and obviously there's, other than giving them a little bit of morphine probably before the dressing change, there's not a whole lot you can do. Dressing has to be changed. So again, you can really see through much of that letter, it's really starting to affect him. And he even says, that sense of humor of mine, it's going, gone. And I do hope that once he made it through the war, that he was able to regain that sense of humor. And a little bit about Hooks and Helen. They did get married. Did some research. They did get married, and he was actually he ended up being a very prominent name in the medical community. So he did go on to do wonderful things. And he probably did. He got an amazing amount of experience during the war, but it also, I'm sure it took its toll on him, as it would anybody. I've been a nurse for quite a long time myself, and I can tell you that, there are certain things that will never, ever leave you, and they will always stay with you. And I never did wartime medicine. I was never in the military, so I can't say that I've seen those things. But working in a hospital, I've worked in one since I was 18 years old, and I can tell you I've seen an awful lot. I've experienced an awful lot, and like I said, it stays with you. It won't ever leave you. And some of the things that do help are having people that have shared similar experiences, so you can talk to them about what you've gone through. Nothing makes a difference like being able to talk to somebody who knows exactly where, what you've been through and what you've endured. Just those shared experiences do make such a difference. So I do have some artifacts, though, to show you from the medical standpoint of the Great War. I actually have a kit. It's an operative kit from a surgeon's operative kit. There are a couple interesting things in it. And the funny thing is, a lot of equipment, again, it hasn't changed. These are a little pair of, we call them hemostats, and for most part, they haven't really changed too much. They're very similar to the way they look today. There were quite a few amputations that did have to occur, unfortunately, so this would have been what they used to do that. A saw. And then also, within this kit, there's this collection of blades. Some are very large, as you can see, this one's very large, and then we have the smaller ones, and there. And then, we have our gauze. So again, a lot of this, the interesting thing about some of the medical stuff, especially like surgical equipment, yes, we have made improvements over the years, obviously, but some of it has really kind of withstood the test of time. And this is just some kind of cotton. For the age of it, it's surprisingly good condition here. But yes, the interesting thing about where we have had a lot of medical advances, again, some of the surgical equipment over the years, it hasn't really done a whole lot of changing. It's kind of withstood the test of time, as they say. So that is all for today, and thank you for joining me on Voices of the Great War. And until next time, I'm Liz Watson.